Now everyone, you are back with the Hairy Pineapple, and this is going to be my anime top 5. Okay, we're going to start things off with number 5. Number 5 is Dominion Tank Police. Dominion Tank Police is a comedy anime, old school, around 1988 when the first lot of it came out. Go by the name Dominion or Dominion Tank Police, and it is a polluted future full of crime and everything like that, and the police are trying to keep law and order while also doing a considerable amount of collateral damage along the way. It's very slapstick, it's very fumbling.
Chief, you don't understand! The crowd were throwing tin cans at Bonaparte!
They throw tin cans when you blow up the city! Are you off your head?
Grab her out.
Get this, you fart! Bonaparte is not a trash can!
In your hands, it's a killer!
You don't understand a thing!
I understand that the tank police are always overreacting!
They were hindering an officer in the performance of her duty!
The characters are so likable. Even the mascot Bonaparte, the tank itself, seems to have a kind of essence and character of its own. The new Dominion Tank Police, which is the one I actually grew up with, was made in about '93. That series was the one that I'm actually more familiar with. And then in 2006, I only found this out recently, there was a Tank Police Team Tank series, and that, like I say, was in 2006. I'm looking forward to eventually finding it and sitting down and watching it with a friend of mine. We both grew up, me and my mate Niall, both grew up watching Dominion Tank Police. It was one that we were really obsessed with, and definitely anybody should sit down and give it a watch. It's good to have in the background. You don't have to pay a lot of attention to it. Like I say, it's actually really funny. It's a good comedy series to watch for any anime fan. Okay, number 4 is going to be Crying Freeman. Crying Freeman is about a hypnotized assassin. I was going to say secret agent, but he's not. He's an assassin. He was hypnotized by the Chinese mafia. He himself is Japanese. He has this crazy big dragon tattoo on him, which is very intricate, and he I believe works for a division of the Chinese mafia called the 108 Dragons, and every time he makes a kill he sheds a tear for a mark of regret, and hence by the name Crying Freeman. It's a very gripping story, and has a lot of action to it, and has a lot of kind of twists and turns that go through as he finds out a lot more about himself. It's very much the born identity of anime, in my opinion. I have yet to find anything that's more kind of like a better way of describing it, but yeah, it's definitely a must watch. Another one growing up that I really enjoyed watching. That leads us on to number 3. Number 3 is Fist of the North Star. Fist of the North Star first attracted me because the hero Kenshiro looks a lot like my dad, and besides that, the story is actually really good. When I first got into it, it was mostly for the action. I was a big fan of martial arts, so Fist of the North Star, which is a martial arts based anime, fit the bill for me. Every direction, north, south, east, west on the compass, has a master, if you will, kind of owning that area, and they all kind of come together and try and like be Fist of the North Star, because the North one is the most powerful. And Kenshiro kind of gets like rolled over a lot, which makes you feel a lot of sympathy for him, and then he kind of works his way into the end game, which, you know, I can't give too much away about it, but it's incredibly good if you like superhero mixed with a bit of martial arts kind of genre type of stuff, because Kenshiro is so nails. Like, there's a scene in particular I remember where like he's coming from nowhere, he hears the cries of a little girl, and he just comes from like the distance, getting incredibly more close, and he walks through a building. Like, he doesn't like he doesn't it's not like he like, you know, blasts it open or anything like that. He just carries on walking, and the wall just crumbles with around him. It is mostly about the idea of this is a post-apocalyptic world. We destroyed our own world, and then there's nothing left, no vegetation, no nothing. There's even a scene where somebody tries to grow a flower, and then the main bad guy is called King Rao, and one of his people say to the person trying to grow a flower,
There are no flowers allowed in Lord Rao's kingdom!
It's pretty funny. It's very much the 90s, very much the late 80s, 90s kind of vibe to it. Definitely a must watch. There is a film, there is also a good series to go along with that, which explain more into the different other fists for, you know, general background story. And then that leads us into number 2. A lot of the purists and old school anime watchers might not like this, but number 2 for me has to be Naruto, and the reason why that is because Naruto is such a long story. There's often times where I watch a series of something and then find it ends, and I'm like, oh, I wish there was more. Like, the ending was good or the ending was bad, and I wish there was more of it. So this kind of fills that kind of gap. Like, if you want a series that is going to take you so long to get through, then Naruto is the one. Naruto itself has about 210 episodes, I think, or 220 episodes, and then Naruto Shippuden has probably about 300, something like that. Probably close to 400. I haven't finished it yet, so I think I'm around at 300 or something. But it's definitely worth a watch, because as you go from the beginning of Naruto and get to Shippuden, and then go through Shippuden itself, you will see Naruto and his friends all grow up. Also the humor, the missions and the situations that they find themselves in all grow up as well. And I think it kind of like relates to a couple of things that kind of get said off just throwhand, like, you aren't ready for this mission because this is an S-class mission, you're not an S-class ninja, you're only B ranking or A ranking, whatever. And I think that kind of relates to that, because as we get into the S-class missions towards Shippuden side, then it becomes a lot more serious. The stakes are higher, and the kind of situations that they get themselves into are a lot higher as well. A lot of adults watching the first Naruto series might find it a bit mature, it might be a bit lowbrow for them, but I'll honestly stick with it. I did start watching it like a fair few years back, and then get up to here now, so I've kind of grown up with Naruto in a way. But it's definitely worth it, and I would watch it now even if I hadn't have seen it, because of the amount of depth that it has. Because from start to finish, you are watching, like I said, them grow up together and everything like that. Also, it's really good animation on the ramen. And, it makes me want to eat ramen when I'm looking at it. So yeah, there is that. So that brings us to number 1. Number 1, there was a lot of different ones that I could have chosen about this. Like, I did think about using Shadow Skill because it was the first anime I ever saw. for a lot of different reasons. It had a lot of meaning to me. Watching that for the first time with Niall, it kind of like grew our tastes together. But I didn't want to choose that because I wanted to make an episode for that by itself. I think I probably will make an episode maybe for each one of these by themselves, but I think for this first top 5, for my suggestions as to what to watch, I think number 1 has to be The Guyver. Now, The Guyver has, much like Dominion Tank Police, has a few different versions of it. It has the live action movie, which I think there are 2 of. It has the movies that were animes, which I think there could be a couple of. The series of Guyver and New Guyver, which is one of them is called Bio Boosted, I think. The Guyver that I grew up watching, the intro to that is basically that there were these creatures called zoonoids. One was impersonating a human, took off with a bag that contained the element that made the Guyver. I think he took off with like 3 or 4 or something, different experimental Guyvers. One of them ended up getting to a guy named Shaw. Shaw ended up blending with the Guyver, and then that became his bio-boosted armor. And then he ended up fighting all the zoonoids. Shaw then ends up fighting against the corporation that made the Guyver, made the zoonoids, everything like that, because they wanted the Guyver to be their kind of ultimate weapon. He finds out a lot more about the Guyvers and everything like that, and it's definitely an interesting story, definitely one to stick with. And I think the fact that there's an earlier version and a later version, a live action version, and just so much to it outside of the actual anime itself, I kind of just brings it into an interesting point for any anime watcher to be able to sort of say, like, look, watch the Guyver, because any one that you pick up, any version of it, is going to be pretty good. I mean, even the live action stuff in the early days, although to look back on it now is a little bit funny and a little bit kind of terrible in some ways, it still has charm to it, and it still has a lot of things about it that make it, really good, and definitely a benchmark of history to sort of say, like, look, we made a live action version of an anime, and it wasn't really half bad, especially when it came out. So that is my top 5, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it gave you some insight into some new animes that you wanted to see, or maybe some old ones that you haven't seen for a long time. Definitely give it a watch, any one of those or all of them, and come back and let me know exactly how you felt while watching it, and whether you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I've been the Harry Pineapple, and you lot have been lovely. I'll be glad to see you in the next one. See you in a bit.